All right, welcome everybody. So this is the happy day when we have 24/4 finally ready after 6+ months of work. So my name is Jonas.
Leif.
I'm Mark.
So we are here to kind of give you a quick glimpse of what is 24/4. There is a tons of stuff in there, but a couple of features really stand out. So we're gonna give a demo of those. And also here for answering all your questions. So if you have anything in mind, please go ahead and ask in the chat of YouTube chat. So just post it in there and we'll try to kind of answer all your questions. But before kind of giving stage for Leif and Mark to show different parts of Vaadin, maybe I could kind of give a couple of words as a background in there. So as you know, this is all about fighting for simplicity. We try to make it as simple as possible for the developers to build apps. And the customers have been saying the same. So 98% of the teams who are using Vaadin, they basically answered in a survey that they did save a ton of time by using Vaadin. We would still like to kind of see this from the point of view of fighting for the simplicity also for the end user, so that those people, you all who are building on top of Vaadin, you could build really great apps, and those great apps could make it simple for the end users. And I think the only way for where Vaadin can really help you build those apps is just kind of make it so easy that you will be fighting with the tech with Vaadin. So our job in here is to build a platform that you can rely on, that is simple to use and that is really efficient for building those apps. And those apps, we have been kind of pondering for a while, and inside the team, what are those apps? Because I've been seeing everything between like space and DNA and everything in between there, banking, insurance, healthcare, all kinds of apps being built on top of Vaadin. But when looking forward, what those apps should be representing is that they should be great modern business apps. So mostly about the business apps. Obviously, people can build whatever they want, but what we are seeing is mostly business apps. And asking what are those, what makes a business app modern? We just listed our kind of top 10 list in there. They should be accessible for everybody. They should have real-time collaboration right built in. They should be linkable. They should work on every device. They should just work without asking any passwords. They should maybe integrate with Slack or Microsoft Teams or whatever. Should be personalized in a way that they understand the end user. They should be really fast to use. I mean, like in the best case, at least what I like is not to touch mouse at all. There should be AI built right in, and they should be beautiful. So I think it's a lot to ask, but by kind of listing these, that kind of gives us a bit of a target to aim for, to make really fight for simplicity for building these apps, making it easy for you to build all these features right in. And I know that we are not there. Not everything here comes out of the box, but that's where we are aiming for. So one thing that I'm quite happy about that we've been building in the past 6 months is a new demo called Star Pass. This is something that kind of tries to demo type of user experiences that are typical for Vaadin, and hopefully also will end up demoing kind of applications that people will be building with Vaadin. So they should be responsive, working on mobile devices. They should typically have a lot of data where you can just drill down in the data and start seeing whatever are in there. Typically there is some kind of a collaboration, chatting, whatever in there. And also there is a lot of data in many cases. Let's see where we could see some like managing users. So CRUDs are quite typical in there. And I mean, nobody's building really like application for intergalactic travel. But this being a silly example, hopefully this kind of helps to inspire some of those apps how to build them. And I've been asked a lot, so could I have a source code for it? I kind of want to fork it. We don't have that yet. We'll get there. And actually, we are planning to bring all the components that you see in here right in the product core so that it will be easy to build apps like this.
Yeah,
so that's basically kind of a...
Yeah. One thing to emphasize there also is that in this app, most of the cool things, it's just CSS, and you can also inspect all of that CSS through the web browser. So, I mean, it might be even more convenient with the source code, but if you want to be inspired, you can also just look at the CSS through the browser.
Yeah, actually, some of that was isolated in a theme that is in Vaadin directory, so you might get some of that there, but it's not like a production quality theme, but maybe it might help you. So the thing how we have always built this Vaadin platform is that we are aiming for full stack, meaning like it works, it kind of binds together server and the client and tries to, by that kind of by kind of combining those two things, we try to make things as simple as possible. And obviously this is building on top of Java. So if you look at any web application, they pretty much look the same, from persistence logic to UI, and somewhere in there is a network, and the network typically is a problem. So if you kind of map out what a typical stack that people are using to build nowadays, it could be like some kind of a backend framework. Let's say Spring Boot in there, it's a great choice. Then some kind of REST or GraphQL layer, and then you use like Angular or Vue or React or whatnot in there. And maybe use components, maybe your team convinces themselves that we should be building everything from scratch. But the network in there in the middle, that makes things complicated. And at the same time, this kind of architecture leads to people tending to split their teams in two, so the backend team and the front-end team. And the network makes it, kind of gives you a kind of a clean point where to separate this. But I think most of the time this is pure madness. It's really adds a lot of complexity how you collaborate within a team. I mean, if backend techniques are super complicated, if the front end is super complicated, it might make sense from the kind of skill management point of view. But most of the time, it would be better to kind of just have one full stack team that owns the features throughout all these layers. And obviously, then you need to have a framework that makes it a bit easier to do so. So just going to illustrate the point, what I'm seeing often is that when you have a full stack team, they can own both the UI and the backend implementation. And the nice thing is that they don't have to wait for anybody else. The same team can build from the end to end. While if you have decoupled teams, front end and backend separately, it typically goes in a way that UI development is done, and then maybe you have to map out the API requirements in a document or Jira ticket or whatnot, and throw that over the fence to a backend team. And the backend team, typically they don't start to work on that ticket right away. They finish whatever they are working on that week, and then they get back to that and build the backend implementation. And when they're ready, then they kind of throw it back over the fence to the front-end team, and maybe the front-end team is working on something else already. And these kind of cycles, they really add latency in there. And when you have latency, you end up iterating less. So you end up basically kind of having less iteration, and with less iterations, you have less quality. So really would love to see this kind of full stack ownership throughout the teams. This is nothing technology specific, but it's really helped by having a full stack framework. So less process, smaller, faster iterations, and then you get to market with the better quality and faster. So we have had this pure 100% Java for many, many years. This is the foundational idea, building out of components that you can build 100% in Java. And this gives great abstraction for it. So we are able to abstract away many of these layers. And now we brought in Hilla framework side by side with Flow. And the cool thing is that we are able to still abstract many of these layers, not as much as with Vaadin Flow, but quite a bit. But at the same time, we are able to bring in the most popular front-end library out there, React, right next to Vaadin's, right in the Vaadin's core. And these both can share the same components, and they can sit side by side in one application. And by kind of doing this, it opens up a lot of possibilities on having front-end developers in the same full-stack teams working side by side with the rest of the team. Or maybe in some teams, people become full-stack across the whole team, writing just TSX and CSS and Java like side by side. That seems to be quite typical nowadays. But kind of bringing that right in the Vaadin platform core, it gives a lot of optionality for you. So you can really choose how you work and what's best for your application. So that's pretty much the all of this. Leif will be showing in practice how this is done. And I mean, you probably have been using startervaadin.com to start your application. So in there today, if you start the application, you can start adding both Flow and Hilla views side by side. So that kind of where this leads is this full stack development platform we call Vaadin. It's fully optimized for Java, for teams who are building on top of Java. We are really optimizing for Spring, but keeping support for everything else we have been supporting available for forever on the context of Flow. But some of the Hilla specific features are optimized for Spring only. Obviously, we have a really impactful component set, and a new thing that we are now bringing in is an AI-powered code-first UI editor. So this is a really big thing for us, really enabling you to visually edit what you are, the UI is what you are writing, but still keeping the full control inside your code. So this isn't like some magical model that we had with Vaadin Designer, but this is actually a pure code that you control, and you can still edit that visually with the help of AI. So Mark will be demoing how that looks like. Maybe before jumping over to what we have been doing with Hilla and integration, let's see if you have any questions this far.
Of course we have. We have a couple of ones here. We got American Venom asking, how does Vaadin work at scale, say 1,000 or 2,000 concurrent users? I would say...
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say just go for it. I mean, the main bottleneck if you're using Flow is session memory, because you can count with roughly 1 megabyte per user per concurrent user. But I mean, memory nowadays is cheap. You can get for under $100 per month on Amazon, for instance, EC2. You can get kind of enough memory for 10,000 users at least. So that's basically nothing.
Yeah, so like I think a good rule of thumb is 10,000 concurrent users per server. And obviously with applications that you would be running on such a scale, you probably want to have a multiple servers anyway, so just for the fault tolerance. So if you are speaking of tens of thousands of users, one is a totally fine choice. If you are speaking of millions of concurrent users, then maybe Vaadin is not the best choice for you. What else do we have in here?
We had Omar asking, how about Vue on Hilla? What is the roadmap? I think I can answer that one also. So the roadmap there is that we have no plans for Vue on Hilla for the moment. We really want to nail the experience with React first, and then once we feel like we have everything in place that we want to have, then we think about what would be the best direction of expanding to also cover other technologies. But that's for later.
Veselin is asking, what's the plan for lit element? Will it be replaced with React in future?
Yes, no, maybe. I mean, we will definitely recommend using React for building views. but lit support will remain as it is, and we will also internally keep building our own web components like the button and checkbox and grid and so on. They are now implemented with Polymer, but we are gradually changing them to also be based on lit. So lit will remain a valid option, definitely.
And we really want to be building on top of web components, so that being the standard. So
Yeah.
all Vaadin components are web components, and on top of that, pure web component that's being built in lit. On top of that, we have APIs for React, APIs for Flow, and maybe in the future we could also add APIs for Angular, APIs for Vue, and so forth. So in that sense, it's important to maintain this standard-based component set in there.
Yep. We got one more question, but I think I'm going to answer that one indirectly. Right. Yeah, over to me, I guess. Hilla and Flow and so on. The big thing with Vaadin 24.4, that's definitely kind of bringing Flow and Hilla together. But at the same time, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I thought, well, we had this other webinar a month ago. I showed these things. We've been publishing 3 different blog posts on vaadin.com on exactly this topic. There's been a couple of persons asking kind of what Patrick asked, can I use only Flow without Hilla in 24.4? Or there's been questions kind of, do I have to start using React now? I was happy using only Java and so on. And the answer to all of those questions is that we're not removing anything. We're adding this kind of combining Hilla and Flow. We're adding more integrations with React to be able to also help people for whom Vaadin wouldn't have been an option at all before, because they have React developers that they need to kind of, well, they can't just fire them all because they want to start using Vaadin or reasons like that. So kind of these new things, they're all about broadening the reach of Vaadin. But if you are happy with how you use just Hilla without integrating Flow, or just Flow without integrating Hilla, then definitely you shouldn't even be asking if you should start combining them. On the contrary, just keep doing like you did before, because that's in very many cases the best option. But we also provide alternatives for other cases.
So basically, just we want to make it sure that you can decide how you want to build your application. And what we have been actually working super hard for the past 6 months is making sure that all those choices they actually work. So we had a challenge for getting everything work fluently together. So now we believe that you're in a pretty good place.
Yes. And just to kind of emphasize this, I was asked to demo kind of, well, using Flow and Hilla together and so on, but I will actually be a rebel and do the opposite. So I will focus on individual new features, kind of smaller features that we have also built that are launched in 24.4. And then if you want to know about specifically combining Flow and Hilla, then go and watch the webinar from last month. You can also, of course, keep asking questions. So if you could get my screen visible, I'm going to showcase a couple of new features. Let's start with Grid, because everyone uses Grid. This is Grid in Flow, and I'm using it here with a record. So I got records for everyone who is present here. Me, Jonas, and Mark. This is the actual record here. And I want to show that in a grid. And if I just kind of create a grid and add those, and let's ignore the rest for now, then it doesn't really work as expected, because, well, I can select these record items, but I don't see any data about them. So I need to actually configure columns. And one new thing that we're adding in 24.4 is that you can just give it the kind of record class, and then based on that, it will automatically also configure the columns for you. So now actually, just by passing this class to the grid constructor, it also sets up columns based on the properties in that, or components in that record. Another thing with Grid, or actually this is something that goes through all of these components where you can select things. I now have multi-select enabled, and if I now select a couple of persons here and show selection, we see a notification here just kind of dumping the values there. But there's always been a little bit of problem, because if I add a new button here for just removing Jonas,
Don't remove me.
We get a well, sorry, it was a random chance who I was about removing this demo, and you were chosen. No, like this.
Thank you.
Yes, it's very, very, very important to be fair in these cases. So now if I kind of select me and Jonas, check out the selection, then I remove Jonas, check the selection again, Jonas remains selected even though he's not in the grid. And this is kind of for practical reasons, because if this would be millions of rows in the grid loaded from the database, then it would be very inefficient to go through all selected items and see that are they still there. But we have now made so that when you have in-memory data provider, you can do set selection preservation mode dot preserve existing. You can also choose discard to make it always remove all selection automatically when the data changes. But now in this case, we preserve the existing ones. So now again, if I show the selection, I remove Jonas, and now when I show the selection, then it's only me selected, which actually reflects what's in this grid. So this grid selection preservation mode, it's something that is available in basically all the or should be all the components with selection APIs. So grid and combo box and all of those. More features that we have added that have nothing to do with integrating Flow and Hilla. Let's talk a little bit about JavaScript. So we're adding to the element API, you can run JavaScript. So get element run execute, I mean. But the thing is, it used to be so that actually I don't want to have that there. You can return a promise from this thing, but you couldn't previously await things. So resolve, I mean, and then I get some value. I don't care what it is. I just want to show notification, show saying done, and not a semicolon there. So I mean, what I'm doing here is I create a button, and the new thing is that inside that JavaScript that we run, you can actually await things. So we run this JavaScript on the server in a way that the await keyword is available, and that's really useful when you want to integrate various client-side features. So now, I mean, yes, it sends things back and forth and we say done, but the really cool thing is that you can do the await here. Next thing, final thing on the Flow side I want to show is good old checkbox. So new checkbox, let's actually give it a label, and let's check it by default, and let's add it to the UI. And now what we have added is that you can give this checkbox a helper text, like you can with most other components. So helper, and you can set the checkbox to have an error message, and you can set it to be required. So all of these things previously, as a workaround, you had to create a checkbox group with only one item and do things through that. But now starting from 24.4, you can actually also, for this checkbox here at the bottom, we see the label, we see the helper text, and if I now uncheck it, then we also see the error label, and we see the required indicator there also.
But there are a lot of these kind of quality of life improvements that we have been doing here and there, but obviously kind of the most of the attention has been going to Hilla coming back home to Vaadin and that being integrated in here.
Yes. Final feature I'm going to show for the Hilla users. This is currently a preview feature. So you actually need to go here in Copilot, which, sorry, Mark, I'm showing it already. Just enable the Hilla I18N API here to be able to use this feature. Go away. So to actually be able to translate things, we need to do two things. First, somewhere that is loaded kind of with the whole application, we initialize it, or actually that's from preparations. So we just configure the translations, set the language to English, and that's basically all we need to do. And this now automatically loads based on similar resource bundles that you would have in Java also in the server or in Java code. It actually loads translations. So here, for instance, in this view, we can replace this text with translate.
That the English there means that that's the default language that is used in the strings that are written inside the code.
Yeah. And what was the name of this key? Wait, in one moment, need to check my notes. I think it's test, of course. So now with this, no, it's not test. It's greeting, maybe.
Are you trying to kind of like demonstrate feature from 24.5?
No. This is
unintentionally you're kind of demonstrating that it's hard to remember those texts. Those keys.
Yeah, well, okay, that's true. That's true. So
Is
yes,
24.4
we are adding as a preview feature the actual translation API. We will do some cleanup on that, but then we will also add the Copilot helper for actually translating those.
Yeah, we want to kind of go all in and provide a really kind of full stack for translation. So in Copilot, there is like tooling for translating, and then we'll be later on showing this kind of hosting admin console for Vaadin called Vaadin Control Center, not announced yet, so you don't hear anything from me. And that will also include ways to invite external translators, like professional translators, into your project. And all this will be kind of binding together. So something exciting to demonstrate later on in September.
Yep. Yes. Final part of the demo, also kind of adding another thing here, because you can also pass values here. So now I'm passing value 4 to this translation string. And that means that it says that you have seen 4 bugs in this demo. I won't tell you which ones. And then finally, just to kind of showcase that you can also change language. So if I change the language to Java instead, because that's my other native language, then we actually see the Java translations instead. And that's how easy it is to integrate translations into Hilla. This is a new API, so it's as a preview right now. We would really like to get your feedback on how it works and whether it actually makes sense for your use cases.
And to be clear, Java is not really a built-in language here.
What do you mean?
It kind of is.
I mean, I just created a translations_java.properties file, and then I have translations in Java.
This is exactly the main use case of it.
Yes. You could add Klingon also if you want. Those were the new features. I don't know, should we talk a little bit about what's upcoming also? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of skipped the main features, integrating with Hilla. Is there anything we want to summarize about that?
Well, I mean, you can integrate with Hilla. You can create a flow application. Oh, well, it's a Vaadin application with flow views, and then you can add a Hilla view to it. Or you can, in that flow view, you can just take a React component and integrate it, kind of embed it there. You can do the opposite also. You can have a Hilla kind of application with Hilla views. You can add a flow view to it. You can take a flow component that you have as a kind of reusable component. You can embed that in your Hilla views, and it's a really seamless integration, though we will keep making it even more seamless. So there's still some missing features, like when you embed a React component in Flow, you can't add Flow components as children to those components. So that's something we will improve in 24.5 to have a really, really smooth and seamless experience when combining Flow and Hilla.
So
maybe kind of jumping.
Go ahead.
Maybe jumping back just to the question about whether you can keep using Flow without Hilla. So that's exactly what Leif is saying, is that, yeah, keep using that, but you also have the flexibility to really easily add, like if there's that one view where it just for some reason would be easier to do it in React, or if you have a component that you want to integrate, now it's much more easy to do that.
Yeah.
So basically you can go and pull from the world of components that somebody has integrated, built in React. You can actually start using any of those in your Flow application as well. And regarding if you really want to go all in crazy and have like Flow inside React, inside Flow, inside React, inside, and so forth, you can actually go ahead and download 24.5 Alpha 2, so that's supported today, but that's only for the crazy ones. We had a bunch of questions in here. So first of Sergey is asking, is there any plans for better Jakarta EE support, better Quarkus integrations?
You expect me to answer that?
Or Mark?
Well, yeah, no specific plans at the moment. So that doesn't mean that we won't do anything. It's more kind of if there's someone is eager about something, pull requests, specific things to improve and so on, then we could do that, but we don't have any kind of long-term roadmap plan specific to that integration at the moment.
Yeah, so just to kind of maybe repeat, we know that there are many people using Quarkus and Jakarta EE out there, and we want to keep supporting them forever with Vaadin Flow. There are some features that we are investing in building a more kind of full stack features that integrate throughout all the layers in Vaadin, where we need to be understanding what's underneath on the server side, and for those we'll mainly target Spring. So that doesn't really kind of take away anything from anybody using Vaadin Flow today with Quarkus or Jakarta EE, but that maybe contributes more to the Spring users. And frankly, Spring is really dominant nowadays for new projects, what we are seeing in Vaadin. So Omar is asking about the offline mode.
It can, but it's very, very limited, since the whole point of Flow is that whenever the user clicks a button or something, it calls to the server running server-side Java logic to update something in the components, and that won't work when you're offline. So what Flow allows you to do is to define a single static HTML page that will be loaded automatically if the user is offline when opening the app. So in most cases, what you really need to do if you want to have offline functionality is to use Hilla for those parts, because then the whole point with Hilla is that the application logic runs in the browser, and then it just fetches data from the server through browser callable endpoint methods. So in that way, you can cache the data that the user will need when they're offline, and then do all the interaction with that data through Hilla logic that runs in the browser.
And the cool thing with 24.4 is that now when Hilla and Flow can really run side by side, and they have the same components and reside in the same menu, so from the end user point of view, they don't really see where the which is which. There is no. It's completely seamless. So if you need to be building part of your application to support offline, now you actually go. You can do that without really having a separate project or kind of showing any of those scenes to your users.
Yeah, so it's exactly the same UI components. That's something that is important to keep in mind.
Is it a good idea to use Jakarta EE with Vaadin Flow? My takeaway is, yeah, I mean, it's kind of I think it's a bit a different question. So if you would, at least how I'm reading is that if you would be starting a new project today, I would choose to start building on top of Spring instead. But obviously, it's a matter of taste.
Fine.
And then we'll have a fair question from Nanda on is 14 to 24 as painful as 7 to 14? On the kind of ranking of painfulness, I would say 7 to 8 was already way too painful, and 8 to 10 or 14, that was embarrassingly painful. Anything after that is walk in the park. So 14 forwards, it should be quite smooth.
Yeah, because between 8 and 10, we even skipped version 9 just to emphasize how big of a jump there was. We changed the whole kind of client side component model from being based on GWT to being based on web components, and that means that a whole bunch of things work slightly different. Existing add-ons cannot work or previous add-ons cannot work in that scenario, and so on. So that was a really big jump. But then from that on, there's been some small refinement here and there, but in general, going from 14 to 24, your biggest problem will most likely be that Vaadin 24 requires Java 17, so you need to update your dependencies. It requires a newer server, newer Spring Boot version, and so on. So those kinds of changes will probably be more challenging than the actual Java Vaadin code, I mean.
Yeah, and maybe one more note in there is that 24.4, it's actually a really big release. So we were pondering for a long time that should we call it 25. And we decided that it's important to highlight that how much we actually put effort into keeping everything backwards compatible. So for every Flow user, 24.4 is a minor release for a reason. So there is nothing to... It's fully backwards compatible, and we hope to be able to stay to kind of maintain as super smooth experience between version changes. So we try to avoid major versions if we can, and even if we do, then we try to kind of try to keep them simple and easy.
Yeah, and we could maybe right now pull in the very, very latest question that came in the chat. So Seaware Inc. asks, what's the upgrade process from Hilla 2.5 to 24? The upgrade process there, I mean, it's documented. We have published in the documentation open rewrite recipes that do these things automatically. But on the high level, you upgrade the dependencies in your pom.xml. You switch from the Hilla Maven plugin to the Vaadin Maven plugin, and so on. And then there's a bunch of Java package renames. So that's just search and replace, and a bunch of similar npm import changes that are also mostly just search and replace to update those. But all your kind of application logic and so on, that remains unchanged. It's only those names that change.
All right. There is a question about licensing, so grid layout. I think this means Grid Pro in probably.
I think it's the classic component.
Oh yeah. So the classic components, they are mostly meant for migrations, and those are on the commercial side. Aside from like a migration oriented stuff, the trend is that we try to make actually over the time pull more of the pro stuff and make these free and put these to the core. So next up will be all the collaboration stuff that we have. The whole collaboration engine will be moving that to core in 24.5. So that will be 100% free from that point on, and we are looking what other parts we could be kind of pulling from the project and put those on the Vaadin core and make them fully free. So no announcement there in there. We're just kind of evaluating what's the kind of right order in there.
Yeah, and specifically with grid layout, could just mention that the way grid layout for Vaadin 8 is built is problematic with modern web. We would really want to use the new-ish CSS grid functionality, but it's just never been a high enough priority to get done yet, but we haven't forgotten about it.
We have many questions in here. Maybe we could jump over to Copilot for a while and then come back to the questions that we missed.
Yep.
So that we don't kind of keep everybody lingering in here for the excitement of seeing Copilot demo. And let's see. I'll switch the screens to Mark.
Yes, and maybe I can even lead with answering while you do that. Answering a question here. Do you think that Vaadin Copilot can be confused with Microsoft Copilot? So it's a pretty good question. We have been thinking about that, and it seems that Copilot is becoming this kind of group name for these tools that assist you using AI. Microsoft itself is using it for multiple things. We have GitHub Copilot, but also the kind of Office type Copilots, and there are actually quite a few other products that use that name. So we're kind of expecting that will be kind of the perfect terminology to describe tools like this. Having said that, right now we hear you. People are a little bit confused, and also kind of in the sense that expecting that Vaadin Copilot would be only AI, which we can show right now that it's not. But so to get started here, this is kind of, I have a little project here that's just a regular project downloaded from Start, and then I'm editing this little view here. My application is running, and so if I switch over here to my browser.
Hey, actually, Mark, before you switch over there, show your background again. I think this is a really good kind of add to the Copilot question. I don't know if you can show the whole of it.
I probably can if I add like a separate screen.
Do you want to explain that?
No. Yes. It's a Copilot. And also, if you misspell if you misspell Copilot, Copilot is actually does mean a cowpilot in Swedish, and so we have the reindeer, and right now allowing the Copilot to navigate. Yes.
So that wouldn't be confused with Microsoft Copilot. Maybe.
Yes.
It could be even more confusing.
Yes. So if you're feeling kind of confused enough, let's get started. So here's my application running now in, so you can see localhost, the development mode, and you have the regular development mode button down here, except we have made some changes. So that's where you activate Copilot. So now you can see that there's like glowing edges, and just to take a quick tour, there is a command window where you can type AI commands. That's the main way to interact with the AI right now. But we also have these panels that pop out on top of your application, to the left, right, and also the button. And maybe for like when Copilot is activated, you can see that I can kind of hover these components and see what's going on here and select them. And then just to kind of start to show some of the small features. So I can right click and go to source. So we are back in the exact place where that first name was created. If I change
Can I kind of just state that something super obvious? I mean, it's obvious to everybody who is listening, but I want to state it nevertheless. this is a running Vaadin application. This is live code, and the Copilot is just kind of integrating itself inside real Vaadin application that you wrote. So that kind of gives a lot of special properties for it. So
absolutely, yes, that's a good point to kind of, and we should highlight it here that this is kind of a different way of doing visual editing than you have maybe experienced before, because it's when you're running the application in dev mode, you would anyway kind of make changes here, look at how it updates. But right now you can also directly edit that. So you use the shortcut command and you can quickly kind of decide, hey, I'm going to change that thing here. And if we jump back to the code, it's updated here live. And that's one of the points as well, that we keep the source code as the source of truth. So it actually first updates your source code, then that's hot deployed to your running application. So it's exactly like you would be editing your code yourself here. If I edit my code and jump back, it's already updated. So the idea is that there would be a really seamless integration with kind of the workflow we are using anyway. So just where it feels more comfortable to edit. So just to show some more things here, I select the horizontal layout that's around here and press Command D or use the menu, and I duplicate that. So now I'm able to kind of drag that around. So I'm going to drag it below the address here and maybe change this to, like, this is not a super realistic form.
All of this is not just kind of editing the UI. This is actually code editor. It's kind of interesting that this is all is just editing code, even though it looks like you're editing the UI.
Yeah, so again, if we jump over here, we see that all these changes I've made showed up in the code. Yeah, and kind of if I want to, for instance, maybe use the AI to do some helping here. So this is now a text field that says that state. That doesn't seem very useful. So if I do here something like change this, which should now be, I have selected the text field. So this, the AI will understand. The combo.
I mean, you could try it with a typo. It's quite good.
I can try it with a typo. Yes. Let's do US states, maybe. So one thing to notice here, of course, is that AI still has a little bit of good and bad days. It can be slow at times, and as you all probably heard, a lot of them were down just a week ago or two. But yeah, but instead of editing kind of 15 fields or even 5 fields manual and kind of doing things manually, it's quite handy to have this do things. And if you saw that little reload when it was done, that's because it imported the combo box. So let's turn off. Let's wait. I'm looking at the wrong screen here. So let's just turn off Copilot and we can use this application again. And indeed, it seems to have added the combo box. So yeah, the little reload was when it added an import, which actually means that it has to do that little reload. When I use components that are already imported, it doesn't have to do that. But this would have been a fair amount of typing for me. And I don't actually know the states in the US by heart. So it's really kind of convenient to be able to do that. And one thing we should
in a way you should. Sorry. So one thing that you should always remember when using AI is that it might hallucinate. So if you don't know the states, maybe you should still read through the list and see if there are some kind of hallucinated new states where the US is expanding.
Absolutely. Be aware that you should check if the AI actually knew whatever it was you had it list.
Maybe kind of just stating another kind of high level stuff in there. The whole Copilot, this actually, the foundational idea with the Vaadin Copilot is that we feel that somebody, this kind of Copilot, your wingman, is sitting next to you, and we try to want to make it really feeling that you are asking help, you are pair programming with them. So if you don't know how to rearrange components in there or add a component, it might not even know what are the components, you can just kind of start working with this, or you can add them to do a chore that you wouldn't want to go and type all those states by hand. So in a way, this is your co-partner in there. And what I'm feeling is the coolest thing is that while today we are still a bit kind of joking, hey, maybe it did hallucinate one more state, or maybe it did a typo in the while it was coding for me. AI is getting smarter faster, so this kind of means that we are getting regular upgrades to the how smart this Copilot or Copilot of ours is. So in a way, by working with them, you get more and more every day, basically.
Absolutely. And yeah, and already you can see that these things that would require kind of repetitive work, or even kind of, hey, I have to look this up in the documentation. Instead, you can ask the AI, and it will actually be kind of faster than doing it yourself, and at least less annoying. But yeah, speaking about kind of knowing all the components, we have more features here. So let's just pop up the panel with the palette here. So you can see in the palette we have kind of all these regular components that you would have, and we can kind of maybe drag it. So it's a drag and drop editor. You can drag in new components. So I drag a checkbox here. Maybe we can make. So again, it's importing, which has a little delay, especially when I'm streaming my screen. But anyway, so it added the checkbox, and I can kind of edit that live here to whatever, it's probably a foo. Again,
and when you're adding second checkbox, it doesn't have to import anything, so it's
yeah, exactly. So and I can actually kind of.
You muted yourself.
I can actually duplicate that, which is the exact same shortcut as muting the tool we're using to stream. So I can duplicate it, and it will appear here. Let's see. What else should we do? There's kind of a lot to go through here. We have some small helpers added, and probably add more once we get kind of feedback. But I mean, if you want to add a click listener to something, it will jump to that position, and so you're ready to just add some code. But maybe just kind of going through a few of these panels. So you probably saw already we have the outline, which is kind of the hierarchy of your component, but not exactly the DOM tree, but also some additional things that you might be interested in. And kind of, so yeah, you can collapse these things. So that's the outline. The palette has all the components, and then we have some composites down here as well. So you can drag in something like a card in here. Maybe that's not exactly what we want to have right now. Undo works, by the way. And then we have kind of a panel here that shows the routes you have and kind of what the access is to those. Not very interesting in my demo because I only have one.
So maybe kind of one comment about the composites, because I think this is a way larger feature than it looks like. So those composites, they are basically snippets of code. In this case, it's a composition of different Vaadin components, but could be any HTML basically. And we'll have like 10 of these compositions already built in. But in the future, I believe that you can be starting to add your own compositions in there, and maybe your team can share the compositions, and maybe that can help you to build design systems and kind of patterns that you can reuse in your application. So that's a kind of beginning of something larger in there.
Absolutely, yes. Maybe the interest of time going forward quickly here, like the theme editor is quite interesting, I think. So let's pop that out here and have a look. So maybe first of all, there's a global tab here, which you can use to affect the Lumo kind of theme, and kind of that affects the global theme in your application. So Jonas is kind of a little bit scared now what colors I will choose, but you can kind of drag around here and find something beautiful.
So this is always going to be like uglify your application exercise. So.
Yeah, so that will change kind of all the whole theme. So that was kind of the primary color for buttons. So all buttons would change. There's also a way to affect individual components. So now I have the horizontal layout, and IntelliJ is telling me it's updated code here. So let's just hop over so it stops. No, it doesn't stop. Oh, anyway. So I have the horizontal layout selected here, and now I can choose if I want kind of the selected instance or all horizontal layouts. So it's kind of also that way you can style and use, you can choose what class name it should use, and then you can kind of affect some things here. So I can kind of, if I wanted to have a little bit of a background or a little bit of a border radius or something like that. So that would now affect only that horizontal layout and be added to the style sheet. Lastly, I'm going to actually show this thing, which is like lastly with the theme editor. This is just quickly skimming, but a kind of cool thing. So if you have done any sort of front-end work, sooner or later you end up in the inspector and you try to affect, like kind of look at, what things should I do? What style should I add to get a specific effect? So I'm just going to do something really simple here. Just like a gray dashed border. And I mean, often we end up doing for multiple elements, doing multiple styles and trying a little bit so you get it just right. And this is, to be super clear now, this is the Chrome DevTools Inspector, and I'm editing the DOM and the style sheet live, as we often do. But that's a problem because if I press reload now, those changes will disappear. Except if I use the theme editor from Copilot, it will detect these changes that I made, and I realize I should have done more, but we have the one here. It will detect all the changes you have made, and you can choose to write them to the project. So let's make it go away. If I click reload now, the dashed border will stay. So it committed that to your style sheet, and you can go and change that. So that's something we have at least been missing ourselves a lot. You end up trying to copy and paste from several different elements in the DOM, and now you can just apply it and then kind of decide what to do with the styles.
And it's kind of maybe fair to point out that all the theme editing, this is just a code editor. This edits CSS in
yes,
your
absolutely.
project.
So it all ends up here. Here we have some of the changes we made now committed, and it also edits this view file depending on kind of which type of change I made. Was it global or for a specific component, and so on.
You already mentioned that, but it went kind of quickly that the edits that we do to the files, one of the things that we found out that is super useful or pretty much necessary is that we can also undo things. And in order to do that, we are integrating inside VS Code and IntelliJ. So we can support full undo stacks in both. So it's kind of seamless extension of your code editors.
Exactly. If you don't install anything, your IDE will it will reload from disk anyway, and things will kind of work, but you will get into situations where the undo doesn't work as you want, and also you can't undo from Copilot. Whereas now there's an integration. So we have plugins for IntelliJ and for VS Code that seamlessly integrate with the undo stack. So you can see the little Vaadin logo here. That's basically the only thing it does related to Copilot is keep track of those, writing your changes and making sure that they interleave with the code changes you do. So you can jump back and forth with different files and do edits in either Copilot or in the code, and it should all work as you would expect. Maybe just kind of few last things. We have an accessibility checker that will help you find kind of issues with the edits you have done and go through those. Really cool. The information thing here will actually tell you if you have the Copilot plugin properly installed, so you can expect that undo experience, and you will get a notification as well, not warning you. It will tell you if you have a hot swap solution. Now that this is, as you saw, a Hilla React view. So I don't actually need a Java hot swap, but if you are soon, when we have support for Flow, doing that, you should really enable the Java hot swap. And this kind of helps you actually to realize if you have that properly working, even if you're not using Copilot. And you can see which versions of everything you are doing. And maybe kind of, feature flags. And as mentioned, for now, Copilot is for Hilla React views. We are already working on, yes, that. As we speak, we are working on Flow support. You can already enable the feature flag. There's the feature flag panel. But right now it's not fully working, but will be pretty soon. So kind of soon will be a good time to try that out. And I think that's kind of, unless we have kind of specific questions of something I should show, I think that's kind of the live demo here. I think the things we should maybe highlight at the end as well is, as I said, Hilla React Now Flow support coming really soon. It's a commercial product. So you will be asked to log in before it starts modifying your code. You can use the kind of things that show information and help you navigate. Those you can use without anything. But it's a commercial product included in all plans. And we have a new plan coming out, which is specifically for this. Jonas, do you have some news you want to share about that?
Yeah, so we want to make it super accessible to everybody. So this will we have first of a super liberal trial period, so you can have it for free for 3 months or so. But after that, the cost is €8 a month, so it should be fairly accessible for everybody, even after the trial period.
Absolutely. Yeah. So kind of summarizing, Vaadin Copilot is a tool you can use to quickly visually edit UIs, kind of integrating with the workflows you're already using. And it's AI assisted, so you can kind of fast forward over some repetitive task or boring tasks like finding the documents for some specific things. And it's different than many other tools in that it's built into the development workflow. So it's kind of pre-installed. And the idea is you can call on it when it feels like it's the right time and the right place to do it. So we think it will be a great kind of seamless experience once you get used to having that Copilot ready to help you out.
Yeah, there are many kind of suggestions for the new name, like V-Pilot or a German version Copilot, I guess. So there are, I don't know where all of these are coming from. Nobody likes the Copilot name, so
Yeah. We should maybe have one last session and think about that.
yeah. There was a question, I remember, where exactly could we create YouTube videos for as a kind of training courses for how to use Copilot? I think that's an excellent idea. We should be doing definitely something like that. And now kind of we demoing this in different contexts, I start to see that there is so endless amount of features, and when you start combining these features in a creative way, that there's probably a good amount of materials that we could be discussing about.
Absolutely. There's there's a whole lot of features hidden here already, so it's kind of hard to go through it quickly now. The first thing I think you will see very soon is kind of short videos showing kind of each individual thing, each individual feature and kind of panel and so on start showing up. And yeah, some longer training videos would also be excellent.
There is a really interesting question around here from Mark. So are there any plans to integrate with Figma for transfer CSS from there? Way beyond that. So you might have noticed that we have this design system in Figma, Vaadin design system. It's actually pretty popular. So what we built and are looking forward to add in here in the Copilot as a feature in shortly is that you can cut and paste from Figma directly. You can go and design UI with Vaadin design system inside Figma. You can just mark it and you can press cut and then you can paste it directly inside Copilot. And it generates all the code for you. So if you are using Hilla, but that's fully automated. So that's something what I'm super excited about, how this would enable new workflows for teams where the designer happens to be using Figma.
Incredibly tempted at showing that, but it's not actually what we are here to talk about.
I mean, it's always good to see some demos that don't work. So if you want to go for it, go for it.
While you pick out some other questions, just let's see if we can break it. This is where we are today. You didn't see this, right? Here's Figma. Here's a layout with our components. I'm going to copy it. And where do we want it to appear? I'm going to paste it. I'm gonna have to do copy to be really clear. And my demo died, of course, just before doing that. Let's have a new tab. It might be that my computer is dying as well. Let's see. Let's select here and do paste. No, it's not. It's a demo effect.
I think it would have a way too cool to kind of be able to demo a feature that somebody is asking live that could there be such a feature, and then we could have a live demo of it.
I realized I have a.
I have features on.
I have a new project. I might have to turn on the feature flag actually to get that working. Do I have that?
It's on. Cut. So this is like a Konami code that we should be adding here. You're probably importing new components as well.
It might, yes, it's importing a whole bunch of components, and this is our layout.
Oh, there we have it.
Apart from the things I adjusted from global buttons, but so that's where we are right now.
We actually kind of even use your new global theme that all the buttons should be green.
So yes, absolutely. That's the idea. So this is kind of the Figma that I had. That's just kind of components with different sizings and alignments and so on. to try it out, and this is what I pasted in here.
So there are more questions, like Patrick asking for plugin for Eclipse. Could you, Mark, do that on live as well? Because this is awesome way of creating features by asking questions.
Yeah. No, we have been talking about that. We don't have anything to announce yet, but yes, we are fully aware that that's kind of the third IDE that we should support. You will be, I mean, you can use it with Eclipse anyway, but the undo won't be as smooth. It will kind of rely on reloading the IDE reloading changes from disk, which it does, but it's not kind of as smooth and as full undo support as you get with the plugins. But as the kind of Copilot is running in your project, it's not dependent on your IDE at all. You can use without IDE. You just miss some of those smooth undo stack improvements.
So I think we are kind of running out of time, and we still would have many questions. Maybe we could wrap this up with one question that is my favorite. What is by far the most underrated framework out there? Nice to hear that you guys can actually go and help. So spread the word, please. That would be awesome, that other people would be also hearing about this.
Also, one of the kind of most awesome communities. Like, seriously, guys, you're great.
Yeah, that's and if you want to be great together, we have this new Vaadin forum. So feel free to join in there, and any questions that we didn't answer, please come and ask over there. We would be happy to answer all the questions. And if you have feature requests, just kind of point them out over there. But anyways, this is Vaadin 24.4. So we are super happy that it's finally here. We're already busy working on the next exciting features. What you did see with the Figma. Accidentally in this one. That's just one of the things. So there are actually big things coming up. So excited to kind of discuss those after the summer. But please go and try the 24.4 out, and let's try to make this something that more people know about as well. So thank you, everybody, and thanks, Leif and Mark. Awesome demos.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice one.
All right. Have a great summer.
See you.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.